I show up the
Yeah.
next day and I called him. I said, did I do something? Did I do something to you personally? He's like, what? I said, what did I do that would cause this? Why are you causing me this pain? You seriously delivered a giant stack of framing material and you dumped it right where I need to start building. Now I need to take all of that apart piece by piece and stack it somewhere else so I can start building.
Hey, there we go. Get this party started.
Yeah.
How you doing today?
I'm doing.
What's new? Anything new? What's going on this week?
Let's see. Had a company meeting today. I like to take my guys out. I like to take my guys out once a month just for breakfast.
All right, how'd that go?
Just seemed like a waste of my time.
What? Really?
No, I'm kidding.
Oh,
I'm
come
kidding.
on.
I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. It was good. It's always like a little twofold, kind of a catch up as what went right, what went wrong, what projects we have coming up, and then after that, casual. Just just shoot the shit and just have a cup of coffee and enjoy some breakfast, and not in a rush, getting out of there. Just kind of an appreciation too. So had that this morning, and then and then after that, it's fairly uneventful day, which is fine with me.
Good.
Yeah. So
where'd you guys go?
There's a place out here called Southern Bells. It's right in downtown Barrington, but they like this, Southern themed, obviously. So they'll do like their own jams and apple butters and some homemade stuff and biscuits and gravy and grits and all that. So
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So the one guy, Mike,
I like
originally
biscuits and
ordered
gravy.
something. I don't know what the hell it was. Some kind of biscuit topped with like everything under the sun, and I was just like, it looked like a birthday cake. It was so built up, like a sundae. I was just like, you need to put a candle on that thing. It's ridiculous. So it was huge, so like you're not getting anything done after you eat that. You're gonna go sleep in a freaking corner somewhere.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was it. How about you?
Good.
Yeah.
No, I have our association is putting on an economic forecast breakfast tomorrow. So I'm looking forward to they're hiring a economic person, specialist, okay. I don't know. Yeah. And they're going to come and talk to us about how the remodeling and building environment is and what we should expect and all that. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, that's cool.
Although it's 7:00 in the morning and I have to be all the way over on the other side of, a couple towns over. So it's gonna be rough getting there tomorrow. But I'm looking forward to that.
Okay, good.
So that's coming up. Yeah.
7 a.m. is a little early for economic forecast.
Well, I think they want you to get in and out so you're not blowing the whole day.
I guess.
We all have companies and we're all got things to do. So
I get it.
I mean, you have it in the middle of the day, you blow your whole day.
Yeah, true.
So
that's fair.
Yeah,
that's fair.
So right. Yeah, I don't mind that it's at 7:00 in the morning. I just mind that it's at 7:00 in the morning, an hour away.
Right.
That's the only thing I mind.
Right. All right. Yeah. I'll allow it.
Yeah.
I'll allow it. I get it.
But I'm looking forward to it. So.
Okay. Good.
So that'll be fun. Yeah. So coming together, and we had some asbestos being removed at our job site this week, and this house has an old boiler. Actually, it's a fairly newer boiler, but the old pipes are still cast iron pipes running through the crawl space, and the crawl space is really, really tight. So once the asbestos is removed, we're gonna dig out the crawl space so we can get a little more access. It was kind of funny. What do you do? Do you do the asbestos on the pipes first, or do you do the digging of the crawl space out so you have access to get to the pipes? It was really tough. So actually, it ended up being the people that were digging out the crawl space wouldn't go in there unless the asbestos was removed. So the asbestos company said that they'll get a couple guys to crawl around on their bellies in there and try to get the asbestos out. And they did. The reason why I'm laughing is because the homeowners and I are we're discussing other things of the project, and we're upstairs, and you can hear in the crawl space that they're just scraping along the old pipes, and every time you can hear like this scrape or this bang onto the pipes or something, the homeowners were just freaking out. They're like, not in a bad way, but they were just stressed out because they were worried that these are really old pipes. 97 is the house was built, and those pipes, just thinking about touching them, and they have to scrape them and get all the asbestos off of them. So all the banging and the noise it was nerve wracking. We're just waiting for a pipe to burst or a fitting to. It's probably it's got to be rotted and stuff. So
I'm not jealous of any part of that at all.
Yeah.
That all sounds
me either.
Yeah, especially the guys that are on the army crawling into a crawl space and scraping old pipes, like
brutal.
Oh my God. And you're wearing a Tyvek suit and mask and fully encased. Like, oh my God, no, thank you.
Yeah,
no, thank you. Hopefully, I got paid well for that.
I don't know. I don't think it's hard, right? It's not that skilled in the sense of like, you need to go to college to learn it, but at the same time, you're not gonna just get anyone to just be able to jump in there and do that.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. In the end, majority of the time, I would hope that they get paid well. They probably didn't think that they were getting paid well enough to crawl around like they did on this job site, though.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But all well and good. So that's my big thing that happened this week. So,
okay.
What's our situation today, Todd?
Oh, I think we're gonna keep going on the 101, the 101 series, and we'll get into some framing.
Framing 101.
Framing 101. Yeah.
Right on. Framing 101. I'm afraid of this topic because how generally large this topic is. We can go in 100 different places, and I would even say that it's bigger than the flooring and tile kind of talk that we had prior to this one, because although I felt like we can go in a bunch of different directions with the tile one or the flooring one, but this one's even bigger. We can get into materials and tools.
Yeah. All kinds of
process. Yeah, all kinds of stuff. So 101 framing, I will suggest that we keep it as 101 basic as possible.
I will try.
Yeah. In the spirit of the 101 series, right?
Yeah.
This isn't a master class. Right. All right. Where do you want to start? If you want to go, and we'll see where this leads us.
Yeah, we're going to start basic, super basic. I'm going to start super basic, right?
Let's just see where
most walls are built out of 2x4s. Do we know the actual dimension? Do we know the actual dimension of a 2x4? Right.
Well, let's start there. Yeah, nominal dimension of a 2x4.
Nominal versus actual dimensions, right? And that's relevant for anything, boards, a lot of materials you're ordering.
Yeah, that's a good point, because believe it or not, that did come up once a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
About the difference in a 2x4. Like, when you have somebody green on the job site, apprentice, whatever, like this was super green. Just trying to see if this was something that they were interested in.
Yeah.
And they had no idea that a 2x4 wasn't 2 inches by 4 inches.
What? So how big is a 2x4?
You asking me?
It's not a trick question.
1.5 by, yeah, it's not a trick question. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. 1.5 by 3.5 there, Todd.
There you go. 1.5 by 3.5. Now they used to actually be 2 inches by 4 inches. And you may occasionally come across,
that is true.
You may occasionally come across the old house that does actually have 2 inch by 4 inch 2x4s. But now we refer to these as, the difference between nominal thickness and actual thickness. So nominal being, we need 72 by 4s to frame this out. You're actually ordering 70.5 by 3.5 inch boards at whatever given length. The length is an actual dimension. So if I order a 2x4 by 8, it is 8 feet, but it is 1.5 by 3.5. A 2x6 would be 1.5 by 5.5, and then that tends to change after that. So the 2x8 sometimes will be usually it's 7.25, not 7.5. The 2x10 is usually 9.25 instead of 9.5, and 2x12 would be 11.25.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
And this is all
most
relevant.
of the time.
Most of the time.
Most of the time.
Yeah.
Yep. But I can tell you that double, triple, quadruple check your lumber, because that 2x10, or the thicker you get, 2x10s, 2x12s, the thicker you get, the more variation in that thickness you're going to get. Most often a 2x10 is somewhere between 9.25 and 9.5.
Mm-hmm.
So this matters for many reasons, and this is also partially tough when you're trying to make a wall perfectly flat. And we'll get to that in a minute. But just if you're trying to build a header per se, like, and you're smushing two 2x10s together, maybe just try to find two that are very close to the same dimension.
Yes.
Now they do call it rough framing, Todd. It's rough for a reason, right? So
sure.
Most people probably don't care. Now, I unfortunately care way too much. So that variation pisses the hell out of me. But it is what it is.
Well, as it should, right? I mean, it affects your whole build, right? If you're putting in a joist that's 11 3/16, and then another joist that's 11 5/16, well, okay, are you going to feel that in your subfloor when you sheet that and put your flooring in?
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to feel that slight difference? Are you going to see that tiny little hump? You might. I don't know, depending on the application.
Well, okay. Let's talk about the hump, right? So when you're building these 2x10s, 12s, 8s, whatever you're using, and you're using them for, let's say, the floor and the wall, you should be crowning your lumber as well. So what does crowning mean there, Todd?
Crowning is so you want to sight that board. So if you have that board turned on edge, you want to be able to look down that board and see if you can see the other end of it. Then you want to flip that board the other way around so you don't see the other end of it, and you'll see somewhere towards the middle. And you want to put an arrow, or I've seen a lot of people do little domes, but I always did an arrow pointing up. And that point, that crown, that hump, you want facing up so that kind of sets down over time, right? Let gravity help you out and let that kind of set down.
Right.
Otherwise, if you put it the opposite direction, that's just going to get worse, and then you have a dip in your floor.
You know what even is worse than that is not paying any attention at all, and then it's all like some are crowned down, some are crowned up, and then you have this wall that's going like this, or the ceiling is going like this, or the floor is going like that. And
sure. Yeah. Good point.
Yeah. Well, that brings me to
right. Then enter engineered joists. If you're building a house, if you're doing a bigger project, how many people are actually setting 2x10s or 2x12s as a joist these days, as opposed to using truss joists or TGIs or something?
It is becoming more popular now to use I-joists, TGIs for sure. I'm starting to see that a lot, but back in the day, never. But I wanted to take this into the next level, I guess, because we're talking about all these problems with the wood. What if we're using metal, Todd? There are metal joists out there.
There are steel studs. There are metal joists. I've never used metal joists. I think there are, but I've never used them. Steel studs I've used plenty of times. Just that's fire code. If you're working in any condominium buildings around here, you have to use steel studs. Advantages of that, obviously, like I just said, number one, they're not going to start on fire. Number two, you're looking at consistency all day. And that's consistency in terms of if you're setting those in a line, you're in the same plane, you know that wall is nice and straight all the way across. And they're the same exact thickness, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. They are.
Oh, God,
It
I
is
hate
nice.
working with these.
They also have holes in the middle of them that you can run things through.
Yeah. Run your conduit
They're
through, run your gas
lighter.
line through. Yeah.
In theory, they're easier to use. We find a lot of metal studs in like condo buildings. I used to see that a lot in commercial a lot, but you don't see it much in residential. And then for a while there, for some reason, we were seeing everybody wanting to do metal studs in a basement remodel in the house. And that became very popular like 10 years ago. And now I don't see it very often, very much anymore. We're back to wood. Metal studs have not entered into my realm lately or yet. I think when we had the crazy lumber prices in 2000, when was that? When we had the shortage of
20
when was that? 20
COVID. It was
Yeah,
COVID.
maybe. Yeah, it was COVID.
Yeah.
Okay.
So 2021.
I think that's when metal studs became a price point that maybe we started to move to that just because of prices. A point. It's so tough. I mean, I don't want to get into the weeds on this, but just know that's a choice out there. You don't have to build out of wood. You could use metal studs.
Could use metal studs.
Depending on where you are, what the codes are, whether you can and can't. But if we're talking about remodeling, you could use metal studs if you wanted. For sure. Yeah. All right. Where are we going next?
Where are we going next?
Well,
basic. Go ahead.
Well, we're building, right? So now let's just decide that we're building whatever material we're building with, right?
Yep.
We want to keep, and we talked a little bit about the crowning of the wood and everything and how important it is because you want everything to be consistent. So in theory, flat, level, but we didn't talk about squaring things up. So what's a great way that you learned in grade school in math class to keep everything square?
You must have went to an advanced grade school because I didn't learn this until high school. But
no, it was in high school. It was algebra.
I think so.
You didn't have algebra in grade school? I had algebra in 7th grade.
Sorry, this is my co-host.
Hey.
So, good old friend Pythagoras, Pythagorean theorem. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. Essentially, you're just building a right triangle. That is typically in the fields. No one, people in the field aren't walking around saying use the Pythagorean theorem. We just say 3, 4, 5 it. And you can also expand on that and go from 3, 4, 5 it to 6, 8, 12 it. And the idea is if you have that where you see that A and B connection in your corner there, you can draw a little square box around there. That's a 90-degree angle. So idea being if you have that little point, that's an inside corner, you're running a wall up that B leg and you're running a wall down that A leg. When you measure 3 feet going up the B, measure 3 feet going out the A, from that point to that point, C should equal 5. Exactly 5. And you know that you can move that snap line or whatever, if you just have plates laying down on the floor, you can move that in or out until you hit that 5 number. Obviously, the bigger your wall, the more you want to expand on those numbers. So like I said, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 12. But you can expand on that and be even more accurate further down the road.
Yeah, the 3, 4, 5 is awesome because you want to use the largest numbers as possible when you're building, like, say, a wall, and you want the two walls to be square from each other. If you got if the walls are really, really long, then just multiply those number by the same number. So you can multiply 3, 4, 5 by 2 or 4 or 6 or 8 if you really need to get really big. So it works and you don't need to really know the math that well. It's all just basic math.
Yes.
So
yeah, but a great handy little tool to do that, and it's paramount to building something, anything proper. I don't care what it is. It's paramount. You want, when you're building something square, you want that tile on that floor to be square when it's laid. You've seen the floors that haven't been, right? Where someone puts in a nice mosaic, whatever, little hex tiles, some penny rounds, whatever, and you see a full penny round on one side and get to the other side, and all of a sudden you see a quarter of that penny round, right?
yeah,
It looks awful. And there's not a good way to fix that without rebuilding that wall before your tile on that floor. So you can fur those out, use some tapered furring strips, whatever you have to do, but you're creating headaches for someone down the road, and you will get for sure a tile setter that's going to curse you out if no one catches it beforehand.
Yeah.
That you're going to make that
the
look
tile
terrible.
guy always gets blamed for that.
Sure, of course.
Doesn't he?
Yeah. But even
Sucks.
anything, setting cabinets, if you're putting a cabinet in that corner, then okay, well, what the heck? Now this cabinet's not going to sit well in that corner, and now the countertop's going to have to get cut at an angle, or that wall's getting floated out. It's critical to just take the time, lay your walls out, build them square, plumb them up, make sure everything's built properly, and then that way everyone that works with you on that project wants to work with you. The tile setter loves you because his tile laid out perfect. Drywaller loves you because he's not fixing your problems. Makes everyone's job easier.
100%, Todd. Preach. Yeah.
Get up on my soapbox. Oh, geez. I got to get up on my soapbox.
Yeah. And, it's also really important when deck building, too. I mean, how many arguments did we have trying to lay decks out together?
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really important, too. So, anyways,
Absolutely.
It's used a lot. Yeah. So kids stay in school, at least the math part. Get through algebra. Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully some geometry, just some applicable geometry.
Yeah, geometry. Yes. Yeah. You're going to need that too. Yeah.
What else we got?
Okay. I want to take it back to some basics. Like, okay, at framing, when framing is happening, well, maybe you're not the framer, but maybe you're organizing it all, or you're the project manager or whatever, right? So some basics there, right? I want to go down that road for a minute. And let's just say that like some 101 things, just really basic, is that you need to have a plan set, a stamped plan set on the job site at all times. Leave it there. Set up a cool, like you can geek out and make a cool little desk somewhere made for the plan set and all the other things that are there. But you can do something like that, and then just make sure that everyone knows to look at the plans too. That's tough. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them look at the plan set all the time. Yeah. So then also start planning out where the lumber is going to get dropped off at, where, how, when. Start planning that out. You guys, we want to make sure that we're setting our framers up for success. So you want to make sure that you have everything. If you're in control of the lumber drop or planning it anyway, or delivering it or ordering it, whatever, make sure you have all those things planned out, right?
Yes.
Just simple little things go a long way.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I don't know. I just wanted to touch base on that.
Absolutely.
Make sure you got everything there. And then if you don't have electric there, for whatever reason, if you don't have any temporary electric setup on the site, if I guess we're talking about building a brand new house at this point. If that's the case, then make sure you have, or the framers might have this set up, but you make sure that they're thinking about it. Generators, if need be, for all of their tools and their radio. So,
and their radio.
Make sure that's all set up.
Yeah, you don't want framers working without radio.
Yeah, for remodeling, kind of the same thing. the house is built, but often we're getting a lumber drop as well. And so this is even more important, I would say, is to make sure we have an idea of where the lumber is going to get dropped off at. How is it going to get dropped off at? And then my pet peeve is when it gets dropped off, cover it. Can we cover all the thousands of dollars that are sitting there and like protect it a little bit?
You don't want those LVLs sitting out in the rain,
just sitting out there and
delaminate them? No,
because usually lumber gets dropped a week, days ahead of time, right? And weather is weather, so cover it up.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Have a plan. Have a plan
is crucial. You're right. I had, to your point, as far as just where you're dropping that, how that's getting done, like the logistics of that, and just having that all set up ahead of time. I've made that mistake where I did not have that set up before. We were doing just a small, we're calling it a she shed, but it was a small addition. Actually, you were here. You helped me on that addition. And it was, we had dug out piers for a foundation, and I knew the guy that was the driver that was going to drop all this material off to us, and he called me and he said, "Hey, I'll be over there in a little while." And I said, "Okay, great." I said, "I'm not there, but you'll see the way it's set up." So he said, "Okay, cool." And I said, we made one of the fence panels. It was a typical Chicago, 6-foot high fence, just cedar panels going all the way around the perimeter of the yard. I said, we cut one of them loose for you, and we just put a couple screws in there to hold it. So he said, just take those screws out, and you can drive your little whatever machine. What do they call that? Moffett.
Not a lull.
No, they call it a Moffett. So it just drops off the back of the truck, and it's almost like a forklift, right? But it's a little more agile and can fit in some tighter spaces. Anyway, so he takes the fence panel off. He drops all this framing material off. So we're talking 2x4s, frame, joists, sheeting for exterior walls, sheeting for the roof, rafter material, everything. And he dropped it right where we just put all the piers. And he left. And then he calls me and he said, "Hey, I put this right on the money for you. You're going to, and I'm thinking, okay, perfect. I show up the next day and I called him. I said, did I do something? Did I do something to you personally? He's like, what? I said, what did I do that would cause this? Why are you causing me this pain? You seriously delivered a giant stack of framing material and you dumped it right where I need to start building. Now I need to take all of that apart piece by piece and stack it somewhere else so I can start building. You just cost me a full day. Like 2 guys are going to spend all day moving that crap. You just cost me a full day of work. It was the most bizarre thing. It's like, what was your thought process? Like, yeah, I'll drop it right here. That's where he's building stuff, as if it somehow magically all went together. So to your point, have a plan, know your site, right? This is where all materials are going. This is where your plans are set up. Like you said, you want to geek out on your workstation, have everything set up. Take the time to do that, and it's, pays dividends later.
Yeah, don't expect the delivery guy to know or even care where it's going.
No.
Yeah. Not his job, so don't make it his job. What else you got? I know sometimes
we don't want to talk
a
about
lot of
tools.
things that No, we can go down a whole rabbit hole with tools and different types of tools for framing.
Yeah. Fasteners, we can go down a whole rabbit hole too.
A lot of things that get missed during framing, even when we're remodeling, is fire blocking. So we can just putting it out there just to make a checklist for yourself. Fire blocking, make sure that's getting done. Get dinged all the time about fire blocking.
Quick Joe definition of fire blocking, so people know if they don't know.
Yeah, basically it's just making sure that there's no access for the fire to get from floor 1 to floor 2. Like trying to dummy this down to just purely that's what we're trying to accomplish, is keeping the fire from moving room to room, floor to floor. That's what we're trying to accomplish. Right. And a simple 2x material will do the trick.
Yeah.
That's all we're trying to do.
Yeah. It's all just
So
buying time, right? It's all buying time, you know. Unless you have a house with great sprinkler systems, which some municipalities will require that now, but
it's
most
getting
still
worse.
don't.
Yeah, we're starting to have to do that in regular homes now. Yeah.
Yeah, I have some areas out here that require that. Even if it's if you're
Hmm.
finishing a basement, they'll require it. New builds, they'll require it. Some municipalities, most still or do not. But like you said, yeah, you're just preventing that from having essentially just a vacuum to go from that floor to floor. You know, if you have nothing in that stud cavity going up, and that can just fly right up into that joist space. It's going from floor to floor so quickly. Your house is going to go up like a box of kindling. You know.
Yeah, and that's exactly how balloon framing is framed.
That's exactly how.
Those joists or those bays are wide open all the way to the ceiling,
Yep.
or I mean, all the way to the
All the way to
roof
the
line.
roof.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so you definitely if you're doing balloon framing out there, then that I know that's not often seen anymore, but
Yeah. That'd be pretty
definitely want to
wild
do that.
if I saw that. Yeah. But like you said,
Hmm.
balloon framing was literally 2x4s that long that would go from the foundation all the way to the roof.
Yeah.
And there was just an open space in between between that basement or first floor or whatever it was that was just a vacuum. So those houses will burn quickly. Now we do
Yeah.
much more efficient, just post and beam style, framing more often than not.
Let's see what else. Blocking for like accessories. That's often overlooked all the time. And yes, you can have and ask your framer to pay attention to this. So railings up and down the stairs, like that's a huge thing to put blocking in the wall for a railing. That is very helpful. Grab bars.
Mm-hmm.
Even silly things like toilet paper holders, shower doors. That's a good one, Todd. Shower doors, make sure there's full blocking for that and where those hangers are going to go. Try to think of things. TV brackets, curtain rods. I
Yeah.
could go on and on and on.
Yeah.
Just try to plan ahead for all those little things that you're probably not thinking about today because you're in framing, but you will be thinking about towards the end when it's time for finish. And you go to have to install a towel bar and you're just like, yeah, sure, you can put one of those stupid anchors in the wall and get a call back in 6 months because the thing is rattling and half fallen off the wall. Or you can just plan ahead and put some blocking in the wall and call it a day, right?
No anchor compares to that for sure.
No. Yeah,
No.
for sure.
And it's just total side note, the little anchors that come with all those little bath accessories and stuff,
Throw them away.
please throw them away. Please throw them out.
Don't use those.
Do not put that 4-cent anchor into someone's wall expecting that to do the job and hold up for any significant period of time. You're lucky if it holds up before you're done with the project. You know, I mean, my God, those things are awful. Awful. Throw them away.
Yeah. Go buy some decent hangers, anchors, and keep them in your truck.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yep. Yeah. I don't know. I don't want to get into like all the codes and all of the things and how to build stairs and how to cut holes and notching and all that. That I think is beyond the 101. We just wanted to kind of introduce the realm of framing.
Yes.
Yeah.
One other quick note, I guess, just in terms of, like I said, I think at the very start, most of your walls are built 2x4s, right? Your common exterior wall 2x4. So I've seen some. I've built 2x6 exterior walls before because people wanted to get more insulation in there. I wouldn't be upset with anybody that wanted to do that. So I don't argue with that one bit. If you want a bigger R value out of your wall system,
we have to.
You have to do what,
all
2x6?
Yeah, we have to. Yeah, we build 2x6 walls.
Really? You have to do 2x6 exterior walls? Why? What's the R value requirement? 19?
Whatever put me on the spot, I'll remember.
Sorry.
I don't remember.
But
have to get back to you on
if you're doing 2x6, it's probably R19. But if you're
whatever it requires, whatever they're the R value is if it's we can't get it in a 2x4 wall.
Yeah. Right.
And on top of all this, they just passed the code this year that when we're building new, we have to have continuous exterior insulation.
Continuous exterior insulation.
Correct.
Like a foam
Think
board,
about
like a
that.
Dow Blue or something?
Or what's the favorite manufacturer we like to, other than Schluter, that we, yeah. So those panels that have insulation on them already, that'll work.
Okay.
However you want to do it, there's 20 different ways to do it. That's one of the easiest ways to do it.
Yeah.
But now it's required when we're building new. Yeah.
All right. I like it.
Think it's good.
Yeah.
But it's ironic because our weather is not as nearly as crazy as yours is. And you guys are still building 2x4 walls. So it's like,
is it not 11 degrees by you right now?
No, it's 40 degrees here. You're crazy. Yeah. And when we got, I think we get into the 30s at night.
Mm-hmm.
We entertain the idea of getting below freezing. So we haven't gotten below 32 yet this year, but sometimes we do.
Okay.
Not often.
Okay. So the other application for 2x6 walls, if you're not required or just had a client that wanted that added R value, would be like a wet wall, just being able to fit plumbing pipes in there. Right. So instead of 2x4, you want those to be 2x6 walls, so you can fit a plumbing stack in there and some important parts.
Yep. 100%.
Yeah.
That would.
And again, a 2x6 wall is going to be 5.5 inches wide. 5.5 inches.
Yeah.
Give or take.
Yeah. A lot of times when we are remodeling, a lot of times we'll be required to make the 2x4 wall. We'll have to extend that and add on to it to become a 2x6 wall, just so we can get the R value up there.
Yeah. Okay.
So
that's interesting. I'm surprised you guys require that.
Well, yeah, we're nuts out here. Yeah. I don't want to get into it, but partially why everything's so expensive. It's because we're requiring to build crazy, which I'm all for it, but man, it's expensive.
Yeah.
It's expensive. Yeah. What else you got for the 101 framing?
For one, just to round out the basics, if you're building a wall if you're doing a basement wall, use treated for your bottom plates. Make sure that's treated material for your bottom plates. You don't want a regular, typical 2x4 sitting on a concrete floor. It absorbs too much moisture and will rot out on you. 16 on center framing, right? It's your standard.
Yep.
16 on center, and unless you had something weird going on with your floor system above there or your ceiling system, depending on your point of view, like put your joists in the same line as your studs, so your HVAC guy can run ductwork.
Yeah, your studs are underneath all the floor joists. So that's what you mean. Yeah. That's a good point. On the screen here is a little detail of how we build our basement walls with rigid insulation on the exterior wall, and then we have a little air gap, and then we build our 2x4 wall.
And how you put in that rigid insulation? How we do that. You gluing that to the foundation?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we tape it all up. Air sealing is really important, so we do the air sealing as well with all that. And then, and then from there, it's standard building. And this is how Washington wants us to build the walls in basements, and I agree with them, so I like it.
Last basement I did the same thing. Yeah. Foam board glued to the foundation walls and then framed out. And I like me personally, I like Rockwool. I like Rockwool for the basements, just for
I like Rockwool everywhere.
yeah,
You're not going to tell me that it's
fire,
not
water,
good.
sound,
Good
covers
stuff.
everything.
Yep.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Is it? Yeah. And it's rare. It's still
All
not.
right.
It's still not the favorite. I don't think. I don't know why, but it's not. Price, maybe price point.
Well,
It's not
probably
that
it's
much more
pricing.
expensive than a fiberglass, but you know.
No, but it is more-ish. If you're talking about a lot, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, it could become problematic with the budget, I think.
Yeah. I just lost a project that I was bidding for a basement, and you could have put these two proposals side by side, and they were almost identical, top to bottom. And that was honestly, I think the only difference that I saw was the insulation. They were using fiberglass, and I was using Rockwool. And I mean, that wasn't going to make the difference. Mine didn't. They didn't care. We're just like, what? It gets insulated. I don't know what you're talking about. And it's like, all right, I'm using a much better product, but I get it. Like, that's not going to sell the job entirely, you know? So that was that was the only difference. And I'm just thinking to myself, why are you using fiberglass? Rockwool is readily available.
It's because it's cheap.
Yeah.
It's and that's how most people are building to the absolute minimal code available.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
The crappiest house you're allowed to build is how that's written. Okay. I think we did pretty good at scratching the surface. Maybe we'll go deeper next week. Maybe we'll hit another topic. We'll stay tuned to find out.
All right. I will.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers.